Also, distinguished guests, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you most warmly to this, well, somewhat chilly and wet day, but to this forum of the Royal Society of New South Wales and the 4 scholarly academies. I think that you will agree that the topic after COVID-19, creating the best of times from the worst of times, it promises to be really most interesting, inspirational and timely. I want to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and all the Indigenous people of New South Wales. I pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. And the Gadigal people in particular, I know, have a very special connection to these lands on which we meet here at Government House. The Royal Society of New South Wales traces its origins back to 1821, so next year it will celebrate its 200th birthday. That's a very good age for a society, but the society, I want to maybe emphasise, is very modern, and one of the ways in which we see this is as our forum today, which is surely of very great contemporary interest. And we are very proud of our association with the 4 scholarly academies. This is the Academy of Science, of Technology and Engineering, of Humanities and the Social Sciences. And it really is a collaborative project, this one. So this is the first of our annual forums to be live streamed. So there's another moment of modernity. And the great advantage will make it available to many more people than can be accommodated here at Government House. It's in a normal year, we could have at most 130 here. This year it is only 30 present, of course, and most of us present are in some way workers at this event, including the Governor, of course. And but there are, on this occasion, I've been told, 226 people registered for the online event. And all the presentations of this, as last year, all the presentations will be made available in a few days on our YouTube channel. So they will be there for viewing, for catching up, for getting hold of the things that you missed at the time. And so before I finish, I want to particularly thank all those many people who have made today possible. I begin with our sponsors, the Chief Scientist and the Office of the Chief Scientist and Engineer, who provided a very excellent support for IT, and the Smart Sensing Network. The Forum Planning Committee, led by Dr. Susan Pond, whom you will meet soon, but including active membership from our 4 academies. I want to thank our partners, the 4 academies, who've given us excellent support, particularly for the live streaming. Our brilliant technical people, led by Professor Lindsay Botton, the wonderful Government House staff, as we're always beautifully treated when we come here, and of course I particularly want to thank Her Excellency, the Governor of New South Wales, and I now call upon Her Excellency, the Governor Margaret Beazley, AC, QC, to open the forum. Thank you.
Butcheri Gamarua, Majingal, Babana, Camarada, Gadigal. Welcome to Government House on a not exactly wistful day, is it? It's an elemental day, on an elemental day in our city. In terms of thank yous, at the outset, I should myself thank the Royal Society. This year, we had decided here at Government House to conduct a series of what we would hope would be intellectual, deeply researched, but nonetheless accessible topics from experts. And who did we turn to do this? None other than the Royal Society, and who embraced the invitation with glee, and not only with glee, but with great aplomb and great professionalism. And then there was COVID-19 and everything went online. But we were able to proceed with that, not in the full way that we would have liked to. But our first lecture in that series was absolutely sensational, and we are hoping to build on it over the next couple of years. So as patron, I do welcome you here to the Government House. We've got you down, we hope, to a safe number, and welcome also to our university students. You will love, I think, the intellectual enlightenment and the excitement of knowledge that the Royal Academy brings you. In a year where just about every possible analogy has been used to describe the impact of COVID-19, likening it to a war, a hidden enemy, I think that might be in another country, a year like no other, and of course that literary reference to the worst of times, the best of times, from the indefatigable Charles Dickens, and which you have picked up as the theme of today's forum. But there is perhaps one observation which seemed to me to capture where we are at the moment better than any other, and it is the comment, the observation that nobody knows how the story ends. And so it is, I think, with COVID-19. Nobody knows how, where, and when, if at all, this story ends. We know, however, that it has had and it will continue to have consequences. We also know that the negative consequences of COVID-19 and its impacts and its restrictions have not fallen equally on the various sections of our community. And already there's much research material around that. In one research article coming out of the International Journal of Community and Social Development in July of this year, entitled "The Impact and Implications of COVID-19, an Australian Perspective," the authors posited that people who were already poor, already unemployed or underemployed, with high levels of existing debt, or facing existing difficulties with access to health and social services, people with disabilities, they were the ones who were likely not only to be impacted, but indeed to be further marginalised. And we also know that mental health has been of a particular concern, and that isolation has been a particular problem through all sectors of the community. And then at the community level, Philanthropy Australia has pointed out that the economic realities of COVID-19 are threatening the existence of the not-for-profit organisations and charities and their capacities to respond to these more and greater needs. As demand for their services increased, the pandemic diminished their ability to fundraise. And it wasn't only that. As we spoke to many organisations in the early months of the pandemic, many, if not most volunteers in our community fall within what they call the vulnerable section, the aged vulnerable section of 70 and plus. And many organisations simply closed their doors because their volunteers were around that age group and they were not inclined and indeed responsibly, they thought, able to keep their doors open and because they could not have the volunteers around. But on the positive side, what about the positive side of a crisis like this? Well, I think it's been rather interesting, and I found that people, both personally and in organisations, have found themselves not only thinking but also rethinking about what it is that's important to them arising out of the COVID-19 restrictions. What things would they do differently in the future? And as the artistic director of one of our creative festivals said, you know, I feel that COVID-19 has given the introverted part of my brain time to think. And it was almost as though he was having a conversation with his introverted self, introverted brain, and his extroverted self, which is often, so on show in the creative arts. And he was just talking about that time where he was giving himself time to regather, to rethink, not only for himself creatively, but about creativity itself. And Carl Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, summed up the position well when he said, Deep existential crises favour introspection, and they can harbour the potential for transformation. People feel a time of reinvention has come. And these words echo what John F. Kennedy pointed out in 1959 when he said, "When written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity." So this period of time, perhaps more than we've had for a long time with a very fast pace of life, has offered us the chance to press the reset button, to recalibrate, reinvent, to think and to rethink how to build back better, a term which has been used by leaders from Jacinda Ardern to Joe Biden. We wait. And organisations from the OECD through to the United Nations. And I think to do this well, to reset, rebuild, build back better, recalibrate, we're going to have to draw on the strength and the ingenuity and the creativity of each sector of our community. Because when we talk about creativity, we don't only talk about the creative arts, we talk about creativity in the sciences, in the humanities, in politics, in the arts themselves. So in the best of the Royal Society's tradition of omnia quaeriti, this year's forum provides a very unique, I think, and fertile environment, which in the words of one of our esteemed speakers here today, Dr. Genevieve Bell, to create a little bit of room to imagine other interesting possibilities of how we want to be and who we want to be. Congratulations again to the forum, to the organising committee, and we now are going to sit back and enjoy, I think, a most stimulating day. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. You have set the scene for what we hope will be, as you say, a very stimulating day and creative day. It's my role today as Chair of the Program Committee for the Forum to introduce, without any further ado, our Moderator and Rapporteur for the day, Professor Eric Knight, who's a newly minted Fellow of the Royal Society of New South Wales. Eric is the Executive Dean and Professor of Strategic Management at Macquarie Business School at Macquarie University. Until September, he was at the University of Sydney, which is where I met him, as Professor of Strategic Management in the Business School and Pro-Vice Chancellor, Research, Enterprise and Engagement for the University. Eric has wonderful credentials, which I am sure you will agree are impeccable for his role today as Moderator and Rapporteur. He's an internationally recognised scholar in the fields of organisational theory and strategic management. He's a Rhodes Scholar, Fulbright Senior Scholar, and has held visiting positions at the University of Oxford and Stanford University. He earned his PhD from the University of Oxford, or should I say DPhil, before working in industry for the Boston Consulting Group for several years. He is an award-winning teacher, leading curriculum innovation in online undergraduate and MBA formats. He's also served on numerous boards, including the board of the New South Wales Smart Sensing Network. He's a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors and a senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy. Welcome, Eric, and we do agree that your credentials for today are setting the stage for an extremely exciting program. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Susan, for that introduction, and thank you, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, and all of us today to come together and have a moment of solace and reflection. Can I also add my acknowledgement of country to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and their elders past, present and emerging, and also welcome to the students, some of whom today I think is their first time in New South Wales Government House. And I think they've already said to me what a transformational space this is and what a transformational moment this is to reflect on our time. Hopefully today is about having some fun. I think we can all appreciate that, there is a lot going on. It's a febrile moment in more ways than one. And I think my job today is to hopefully create a little bit of the space before and after each speaker for us to think and reflect on what they are going to offer us, and then to summarise that at the end in the spirit of how we might build back better. Before I get to introduce our first keynote speaker, can I just encourage you to have a look at the sheet which might sit on your seats, or if you are joining us online, will be in the invitation. This sheet directs you to a QR code which you can access through your phone, and also to an email address, forum2020Q&A@royalsociety.org.au. And the relevance of these locations is that they are places where you can ask questions. And so as you sit back and reflect and think about what speakers are suggesting to us, and a question comes into your mind, please pick up your phone or laptop, send through a question, and those will get collected and asked at the end. So this really is a conversation, it is a dialogue, and it's an opportunity to engage on some of the big issues of today and of our time.